Welcome to Apply IT. In this video, we are going to learn how to convert an async call into synchronous call. When an API call is made, that call returns promise immediately. And at some later point, we get result of that API call through then or catch callbacks. Now, in some situation, we may not want to get promise object. We would like to get result directly. So this is possible using await keyword. So that is what we are going to learn in this video. If you are new to this video, this is the 5th video on the series on JavaScript promises. If you haven't watched our previous videos, do watch those videos and then come back to this video. In our previous videos, we learned difference between synchronous and asynchronous call. Then what is promise object, how to create that promise object, and how to get a response of async call using then and catch. You can find links of those videos in the video description. In this video, we will learn how we can use await keyword to convert async call into synchronous call, and we will also understand how await works internally. So let's get started. So before we understand what is this await keyword, first understand who returns promise object. So if a function is decorated with async keyword, that function implicitly or explicitly returns a promise object, and all API functions, they generally return promise object. Let's review difference between synchronous and asynchronous call, because that will be very useful to understand await keyword. So if you have a synchronous function, that function will block the caller until the execution of that function is completed. Whereas in case of asynchronous function, that is not going to block its caller. So generally, synchronous function, they return result and not future value or a promise. Whereas asynchronous function, they always return promise object. So there are two keywords. One is async and the other is await. So we need to understand which keyword we have to use in which situation. So async keyword is used if you want to define or declare an asynchronous function, whereas await keyword is used while calling that async function. So what does async mean? The meaning of async or asynchronous function is that its completion time is not known, which means that this function, which is asynchronous, will not return result immediately. And if you want to get that result, then the caller of that async function has to wait. So pay attention to this wait keyword. So this is the meaning of this async function. Now let's understand what does this await keyword mean. So await means that the caller will wait till async function returns some value. So generally we call a function with await inside some other function, we call it as an outer function. So if you do this, then that outer function has to be an async function. Now this is obvious because when we use this await keyword, it indicates that we are going to perform some operation whose execution time is not known, or after how much time we will get result, that is not known. So we are performing waiting operation. So if you are performing waiting operation in some function, outer function, then outer function execution time is also not known. So that's why outer function has to be an async function, which means that we can use this await keyword, or we can make call to an async function with await keyword only inside async function. Now let's understand what happens if we do not use this await keyword. So here I've taken an example where I'm calling an async function, and that async function is returning some result. Now here I have not used await keyword. So when we do this, this async function is going to return a promise object. So that is shown in this diagram. So this is an async function. We call that async function. This async function returns promise object like this. Now that promise object will contain this result. And when this promise object is returned immediately, when we make an API call, this result will be unknown. And because result is not known, we want to get information about result. That's why we register then and catch callbacks. So in this case, the execution of async function will be asynchronous. Now let's understand that what happens if we use await keyword. So here you can see the code. We have used this await keyword in front of this async function. And when we do this, now we do not get promise object. We get result of the promise. or we can say we can get result of the async operation. So let's understand that what exactly this await keyword does. So this diagram is similar to our previous diagram. The difference is that when we make an async call, we are putting await keyword in front of that. So this is that await keyword which is matching with this color, and this is our asynchronous function which is matching with this color. As we learned earlier that async function returns a promise. So that is happening here. Asynchronous function is returning this promise object. So this represents promise object. And we are putting await keyword in front of that. So this await keyword is going to open this promise object. And it will find out a result from that, which is shown here. That result will be returned from this await keyword. So await keyword, internally it is going to call then method on this promise object. So await can call then method on any object that is thenable. So this is what happens when we use this await keyword in front of async call. So basically when we use await keyword, it is going to wait till completion of the async operation. It will wait till promise object gets some result, and that result will be returned when we use this await keyword. So that's why when we call this async function with await keyword, we get result, whereas when we call async function without await keyword, we get promise object. So we can have two different ways of making call to async function. One is without using await keyword and the other is with using await. So I have shown both in this particular slide. So on left hand side we have without using await keyword, and on the right hand side we have API call with using await. So here we register our callbacks to then and catch, and when we make call to this fetch function, it is going to return promise object. You can see here that the return value of fetch is promise, whereas same fetch operation I'm performing here, but now we are placing this await keyword in front of this fetch call, and now we'll get as a result, and this statement will get blocked, and after some time when this promise gets settled, we will get result of that. Whereas in this case, this will be executed and it will return promise, and after some time the promise will get settled and this result will be displayed, which we have displayed here using console.log. Now let's practically see this on Google Chrome. So let's go to Google Chrome and let's try to understand it. So first we make call to an API function without using await keyword. So we use this then and catch call to register our callbacks. If API call was successful, result will be displayed. If API call was not successful, some error was thrown, we'll display the error. So let's execute this. So you can see that we are getting promise. It was initially pending, but after some time it got settled. So now we can see response. So you can see the response contain different properties, and one of the properties is status. This is what we can display using result.status, or we can get say body. If it is returning some JSON data, we can get it using result.json method. Now let's understand that what happens or what do we get when we use await keyword. So now we are performing same fetch call, but now we have used await keyword in front of that and we get some result, and then we are going to print this result. So pay attention to when we get this result object. It will take some time in performing this operation. Okay, so you notice that this got completed after some time, and now we can inspect what that result contains. So you get essentially same thing. And here we can perform say result dot status. So that is going to print status of the result, that is status 200. So to summarize, when we have an async operation, if we do not use await keyword, then that call is going to become as asynchronous. And in that situation, we have to register our callbacks using then and catch method. However, if you use await keyword in front of fetch function or any API function, then that call will become as a synchronous call, and we will get a result of that call, not as a promise object. So now we have two ways. One is without using await keyword and the other is with using await keyword. So now we need to understand that in which situation we convert any async call into synchronous call. So we'll understand that in our next video. Let me know in the comment section how this video was useful to you. Thanks for watching and happy learning, and we'll see you in the next video.